app if you start it on YouTube as well. So I just enabled that. Okay, I think it's fine now. Okay, so yeah, what was I? Okay, I was talking about the body tag. Okay, so the 50 view width. So you might want to change this to 100 as well. And you might not necessarily want to, manually set that, but the moment we change that to 100, we should see that our body tag should, can you see now that you have it in the middle?
Okay.
So you were using just half of the screen, and technically it was in the middle, but in the middle of half of the screen. So
Okay.
so the 50 view which you said before was the problem actually. It wasn't anything else. So I think okay, you already put margin auto, and that's why it's automatically centered.
Yeah.
So if I remove the margin auto, I don't think it should be automatically centered. So you see it's not automatically centered. So when you put something inside of a flex box, which is what this is, when you give a display of flex, that element automatically becomes a flex box. So if there's any child in it and you give that child a margin of auto, then automatically it's going to take equal margins on all sides just to be able to place it in the center. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Can somebody go to YouTube now and check if this thing is working so that we don't get deceived? I think okay. I actually said I was going to ensure I would do that during the last class. So go on to YouTube, please, and check this. Check the link and see if you can see it, and if you can see it, then there's a problem. If you can't see it, then I think there's one more thing I need to try.
It's working.
Okay, you can watch from your YouTube, right?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe someone might just need to leave that on to just keep that. Maybe. Okay. So that's the assignment, and you did a very great job actually. Having to do all of this, and everyone else should be able to do this as well at this point. I strongly believe that we should all be able to do it. So I'm well done, Yetunde, and I think a couple of persons also submitted their entries. That was initially. So I think you did
So I
very.
want to ask a question. On the description, it's 30 centimeter color. On the fonts, I noticed that the fonts that was used in the picture, or I don't know if it is the way the image is not the same thing. So is it a font or color?
Okay.
Because I had to use a color.
You
I
were
use
told
it.
you were told to use this font. This is the font you were told to use. And we're not there with font actually. Let's just get the basics out of the way. But the font you should use, because for you to set font in CSS, use this font family property. And for us to be able to set it, we set it in our body tag or in our main HTML tag, because you can select the HTML tag as well. This is HTML. Then let's just do, and then we'll do font family. So I think this is the font family we used, and I don't know that from top of my head. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna have to go and check. And I think there's a possibility that this font doesn't exist in this document yet, because sometimes if it doesn't work that way, you have to import the font by yourself.
I tried the fonts, but the what was coming out is not even the same thing as what is on the image.
Yeah, that's because sometimes you need to load the font from Google Fonts or so. If it happens like that, you might just have to load your font from an external CDN. And because I haven't really talked about using external CDN, like for icons and so on, so we can't actually. I don't want us to start talking about that now, but we deal with that eventually. But just to clear your curiosity, if you need to get any font, just go to Google Fonts. So you can get a bunch of fonts from there, but let's not complicate our lives at this point with some of these things. Yeah, because I talked about a fourth way of you using CSS in a file, and I said most times people don't really talk about that. So the technology used for that level of CSS, which if you used come across anything like Bootstrap or any CSS framework, that is how those contents from those frameworks are being delivered to you. It is called a CDN. They call it a CDN, a content delivery network. That's what a CDN is. So I'll write it in the chat. So to get fonts, sometimes if you don't have to download it locally, you just have to use the CDN for the font, and you'll be able to load the font in your HTML. Then in your CSS, you can now call it. So if you call any font family in your CSS, for instance, and it doesn't work, it is because that font is not local to your browser. There are a couple of fonts local to the browser, but that just happens not to be one of them. And then the standard way to actually add a font type in your CSS is just by using the font family. Oh, hold on. You're already setting something like that. That probably could be the reason why it's overriding the one at the top level. So you're setting font family here. So let's take it to the top level. And sans serif is just like a grouping of fonts. We have serif and sans serif, and there's a difference between them. The difference is that one has a rounded edge, like all this you can see the difference now. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can anybody notice the difference between the fonts? You can see this sharpness in the edges, like this, like as the W goes up, it becomes flattened at the tip, and there's this curve around it. So sans serif always have this curve at the edge. Look at the D. There's always this. I don't have to. Can you see what I'm doing? Like there's this sharp flatness at the top. So when I go to serif, when I go to serif, you don't get that. So that's just an aside talking about font family. So if you look at it now, this one is just straight from top to bottom. What is that? Sans serif. Sorry. Do we apply that? I think let me get rid of that, and let's have what we had before. What is going on? Did anybody notice the initial change? For some reasons, let me put it back. Okay, I think I just have to get them an area black one. Okay. Okay. Just get this. So this should be sans serif. Sans serif should just work as such. But we on Replit, you expect anything to happen. So this was what was there before. So you can see that we don't have that curved edges and so on at the top. So this is what the sans serif font looks like, but the serif font actually has this curved edges at the tip of the it has this kind of style added to it. But for what's it called, sans serif, it's just straight. Do you guys get that?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but it's not a font masterclass, so let's just leave it as it is for now. So that's that. So does anyone else have anything to say about the assignment?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, so my question is, so when I did the assignment, like the way you have it on this, when you run it, the way it looks on this page, mine, when I run it, it looks like squashed together. It's only when I open like a web page that I see the full picture. So I don't really know, like I don't even know the mistake I made, or like I tried and tried, but it doesn't show me the full picture
Yeah.
on the small page by the side. It
Let's
only shows it when I open like the entire page.
let's look at your
And I couldn't
assignment.
even get, yeah, and I couldn't get the like the assignment to even fill the page. In fact, I
Okay,
don't know.
so what you just ran into is what they call responsiveness. So, like building responsive websites is such a thing, and that's why it's such a thing. So you probably have used some dimensions in your code that you know works perfectly on certain screen sizes and doesn't work perfectly on the others. And why before we start going into things like media query, which is how you now what for different screen sizes while you're writing your CSS. Before we start getting into all of that, I would give you an initial hint to avoid absolute values, especially for things like width and height. If not, you would run into more a lot of those kind of problems. So okay, this is your own assignment, so let's just take a look at it. It's just like a spaghetti.
Exactly. But then when I open it, it opens out.
Okay, yeah, and the reason is because of you have a dimension in place that makes that happen. And first of all, what you might need to do is just come here like this, and then when you come here, you just kind of see. And I think from what I can see, you are actually using it. You are setting your width by yourself, so you can see now that your body tag eh, has a margin of 200 pixels. Yes, and then your padding as you put 200 pixels somewhere around it, so automatically your your header blah 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 one is having an alignment problem. So one of the things you might want to do is just make this have a maybe steady with maybe like a width of, for instance, so you can see now, and that's on the div that sorry, the div that contains the poster card. So you might just have to just put a nice width that kind of just makes it sit well, and have an appropriate dimension, because if you don't set this width, it takes the entire width on the screen. And I think that's probably because of something you're already doing with your body type. Okay. Mm, so we have border this, border that. So text align center. Okay. So you just have to set a custom width. So but you have to be careful when you set that custom width on your element. And at this point, I wonder why this looks like this on this page. So the way you can debug that, which is like trying to find out what is wrong, is you might have to come back here and click on this other icon, which is it helps you to see what your page will look like on smaller screen or smaller devices or any kind of device whatsoever. So when we click on it, you see that because we have a width set here, the 400 pixels still kind of puts it in a very good position. But when we remove the width, it kind of displays well here. So I will pick another kind of time size, and I want to give it a responsive size, so that I can be able to increase and decrease the width. So the quick hack for you to be able to do something like this is just for you to set the dimension as such, because what's probably the smallest sorry the smallest screen size, and the smallest screen size as far as devices are concerned will be around most of these devices, so it's about 375 pixels. So with that screen size, if you set a width of 400 pixels, you can see that some things are going inside. So, and that's where media query comes alive, when you actually have to write media query that if your screen size is as small as this, you want your CSS to be of this you want you want the width of your element to be a particular dimension based on the screen sizes. And this is how you debug that particular kind of code when you're writing that kind of code. But In the meantime, just set a custom width because we are not really dealing with responsive design, so we shouldn't really make that much of our headache. So what you are going to do now is just get rid of this margin and blah blah blah, and then do what Yetunde did, which is what you set a display of flex. Yeah, so just setting a display of flex makes our body a flex box, and you can see that we don't have that problem anymore just by making your body have a display of flex. So every child inside your body will take as much space as it needs to render itself. Do you get the point?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, then in that case you don't give margin 5 pixels or so here anymore. You just do a margin of auto, and when you do a margin of auto, it just kind of centers your stuff. And then you want to remove this position as well. You don't need that position to set things to the center technically. So let's view it on a bigger screen again and see what that looks like. So I think it's still running, and it's still at the top. And the reason why it is still at the top of the page is because technically until you set the height of your body to what you really want it to be, your body tag, and let me disable this small screen, whatever, the height of your body will be equal to the height of the largest child inside of it. And here, what is the largest child inside of your body? It is this card, this your poster card. So our body is as tall as that card inside of it. So what we can do, which is what we did with it in this assignment, is to set a height of 100 VH, and that's the entire viewport height. So when we do that, our element should be in the center of the page. So you can see that now. So when we reload here, our element should just be in the center of our page. So you can see that now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and then you can just probably increase the width of this stuff if you think you need to increase the width. Maybe like give it your own custom width just to make it have more speed, because everything is pretty much at the edge. So you might also want to add padding to your work just to shift it from the border that you've given to the given to the stuffs, to the box rather. So when you add your padding, everything should shift from the edges. Yeah, now you have a little compound, so you can park your Rolls Royce and your G-Wagon. Yeah, so that's it. So any other issue with the assignment?
Thank you, sir.
My own is just simple. I just don't know why I could not get my the top of the padding at the top. I don't know why I couldn't get it to leak.
Okay, let's take a look at yours. Please somebody check YouTube and see where
Yes, it is showing.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
What?
Okay, you said you are unable to get the padding. Let me open it on a bigger screen. So what padding is that?
On top of the wanted, the example you gave us, there was no space.
There was no space here. So what are you using to?
Between the overline and.
Okay, then in that case, what you need to do whenever you see space where you don't want it to be, just inspect it. So what you do, just click on this arrow here. Yeah, this arrow. Then you can hover on top of any element and come into the H1. That particular line, I wonder where it came from. So, but let's just the overline, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think one of the things you might need to look at is the line height. So, did anyone else use the overline?
In the other assignments, I was seeing overline, underline.
Yes, I use overline and underline.
Did you encounter the same problem?
No, I gave it the margin top.
Okay, you gave your H1 a margin top.
Yes, sir.
Margin top. Okay.
Because when I did not give it a margin top, the overline was joining with the border.
Okay, was joining with the border. No, I think what she's
Yes.
talking about here is the space between her H1 and the overline. But
No, it's between the overline and the border.
and the border. Okay, you want more space.
No, less. I don't know if it was supposed to be less because I was seeing other people's assignments and the example, the overline was just a little, only had a little bit of distance between.
Okay, what you
each
need
other.
to do is because of this your padding. Your padding is what's responsible for that. So
My what?
Your pad. So can you see me?
Please.
Eh?
My what?
Padding. So you can see that when I remove the padding, so the dimension of your padding determines how close it will be to the border and how far it will be from the border.
Sir, please, the sound is distorted.
That's not from me. I think someone is watching the YouTube and then the person is playing the YouTube as well as this Google Meet. So if you have the YouTube on, you can just mute it so that it doesn't distort what we are doing here. So I think it's better now. But okay, so Abigail, so the problem here is you just have to manipulate your padding top. So just do padding top and give your padding top a little bit, a little something a little smaller than the original one you've been giving to every other. You get it?
Okay. Because when I was doing it on Replit, I don't know why it wasn't working.
Yeah, it will work. So it's just the padding you need to manipulate. So now I'm giving the padding top 20 pixels. So there are times when you might need to do that. And remember when I tell you about how to set the 4 dimensions of your padding. Like where's that? What's that element again? I think it's the H1 bar. So that's the H1. So we can just do a padding. Sorry. You already have a padding on one of the elements, right? I think the padding is on the major element. Let me check which element I disabled that padding. Well, disable the padding, so it is your poster design. Okay, that's where the padding is on. So you go back and look for the poster design class here. So this padding you have here. So just ensure that the padding top is different from, let's give the padding top 10 pixels. Then automatically, the left is going to be 10 pixels. Sorry, the left is going to be 40 pixels and right will be 40 pixels because it's top, right, bottom, left. So let us also give the bottom 40 pixels. And we don't have to worry about the left because the left will automatically be equal to the right one specified. So when we run it, you'll see that that spacing will not be as much as it was before.
Okay.
And when we refresh, it won't also be as much as it was. So does any other person have an issue with the assignment? And if you haven't done the assignment, I think you are having an insight as to how you can achieve that. And by the way, your image is looking pressed together. Are you trying to put the image inside the sandwich?
My image is looking what?
Pressed together. Like hamburger. Okay, that's fine. Sorry that I think with an eye you can sort that out. So does any other person have an issue with the assignment? Okay, maybe no other person has gotten to that point where they will run into an issue. So that's fine. So let's just go properly into what we want to do today. So what we want to do today, like I said, I brought an image last time and I said as I will be designing in the class today. So and I think we are ready to actually tackle that kind of problem as far as this class is concerned. So let's just go over to our I'll first bring that image up again. Yeah, so where's I just want to open my WhatsApp, bring the image up so I can just send it out here and then we'll work on the image together at this very moment. Okay, what is that now? Okay, let me just go to the website where I got it from there. Okay, and then what we'll be doing is this one. So this is what we'll be doing. So I'm sure that if you did that poster card stuff. You should be able to do this already by now, but let's just do it together. So let me get to just get the image, necessary images and everything for us to be able to do it. So I'm downloading the files to be able to I'm downloading the files for the image. So okay, the file should be in my should be in my Finder, and I'm just going to bring open my Finder. Yeah, so this is my Finder, and then I'll look for that file, and then this is the folder that I just downloaded, and there'll be a couple of things inside of the folder. So we'll have a couple of things like the image. So we just need the image, and then we don't necessarily need it. So with this, I will teach you what a favicon is all about. So these are the designs, like the finished project. So nothing serious. They are just like what the finished project will look like. So we just go on to delete these designs, because we can look at that from our Chrome tab, or let me just open the wide one, the desktop design. Yeah, I'll open the desktop design so that we can check from time to time and see, just take a look at it. So I'll delete this one. I'll move it to bin, then index.html. I'm sure. Let me just delete every other thing, but I will leave the style guide, and I'll leave this as well, because with as well. Let me delete the index.html. So I'll move this to bin. Then we just have this. So I'll go back to that folder where we normally, our OI, BC, blah blah blah. So I'll just copy all of these files and put it inside that folder, so that we can be able to work inside of the folder. So I want everything we do to be inside that project folder. Where's my desktop? Desktop. Where are you? Can anybody see the desktop and I can't see it? Yeah, I think this is my desktop. So this is the OIBC folder. And at the moment we have index.css, about.html, home.html, that last project we did. So I'll delete every other thing inside of the project. I'll delete everything. Then I'll paste what I just copy from the other side, which is just the image, and then all this MD file is like a markdown file, nothing serious. So we'll now go on to open Visual Studio Code. So hold on, you guys can you guys see everything I've been doing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought I was on the wrong screen. Okay, so I'll just stop sharing now, and then I'll come over to the screen where I would normally do where that is right in front of me, so that I can be able to write it, and we can start the project but not write it. So I'll just stop the broadcast for a little bit, and then I'll start it again. Okay, so I'll open the OIBC folder now. Open my Visual Studio Code. I think I don't need to explain how to open Visual Studio Code anymore, because I think we already get it. Now let me just switch. Okay, I think the YouTube screen is also switched back to. So open the Visual Studio Code screen, and then this is that screen, and then I'll start sharing that screen now. Okay, so this is that folder, so I'll just click on it to open it. So this is it. So these files don't exist anymore, so let's just open and see what we have. So what we have is just that image file, so which is the image, that just the barcode, actually nothing serious, the barcode we are going to be using for the project. So that's pretty much what we have. So I'll just minimize this, and then what is this? So I'll just close this folder, which is the folder we are currently in. And then for some reasons, this is so slow, and I don't know why. Okay, this is the image. Okay. And then okay. Then the next thing we might, okay, this is the favicon we'll be using. So I just want us to use this favicon. And you understand what I mean by favicon in a bit. So this is the template. So okay, I'm not searching to show you. Okay, so I think all we want to look at is the style guide. So here we see all the colors that is being used, and then from there we just build it out. So on the desktop, the width is 1440 pixels, so that's fine. So let's just open a new browser window, and then let's bring it over to this place, and then reduce the dimension of this. So and I'm sure you guys can see my screen pretty much clearly. So, and as a matter of fact, other than this, let me just delete these other two files just so that we can be on the same page. Okay, I just need the style guide so that we can access the colors and so on. So let me open this, and we have our index dot. So this is the index of HTML, and I'll create a quick boilerplate, which this. So that's the boilerplate we have now. So, and I'll bring into view once more what we are trying to do. So this is what we are trying to do. Yeah, this is what we are trying to do. So I'll be looking at it on the one side, then from time to time I'll keep bringing it up. So let's open with live server, index of HTML. So yeah, open with live server. Okay, so this is it. There's nothing nothing on the page, it's just a blank page. So we're going to say let's give our page start to a barcode page. Then yeah, so the first thing we'll do is, as you can see, our background is having this shade of gray. It's actually gray in color. So we'll just go to our style guide and see that particular gray color. So I think this is a light gray color that we need to use for our background. And there's something such as HSL. I don't know if anybody here has a background in graphics design. There's a particular kind of coloration that has to do with hue, saturation, and brightness. Yeah. So, or luminosity. Yeah. So we have HSL, and so that's one of the ways of actually creating and coming up with colors in CSS. And I think in a bit we should just kind of go over that, because I'm sure while we are working CSS, you guys must have seen me do a couple of things. So let me just create a new CSS file and call it index.css. So you would see me do things like, let's say, our body, and inside of our body we have a background color. And our background color, you see me do something like this sometimes. I'll do CCC, and then when I do that, you would see issue. Let me disable autosave so that it doesn't autosave our changes. So that whenever I make a change, so you see me do things like this, and then this is a color, and then at some other time you see me also do something like this, background color. And then you see me do something similar to this, and I'll do RGB. Then I'll do 255, 222, then maybe 200. Then I'll do this as well. And this is also a color, you get. Let me actually collapse this. Then you also might see me do something like this, background color. Then you see me do something like RGBA. And I'll do something like 255. 200. Then I'll do something like 0.7, and this is also a color. And you can see that each one of them actually brings out the preview of a color in one way or the other. And you can't see that here yet because we haven't linked our CSS yet in our HTML. So let's just link the CSS. You guys can still remember. So we just do open a link tag, and we have in our link tag needs a very important attribute, two actually. So the first one is our index.css, which is the CSS file we are trying to link. So I think we have a visitor on the call. So let's welcome the visitor. Okay, so we have index.css. Then the second attribute, can anybody remind me, that is very important, that if we don't include it, we won't have a headway?
The style sheet.
Yeah, the relationship. We have to
Yeah.
specify the relationship rel equals style sheet. That if we don't do this, the lost cause. So when I save it, okay, and you can see now that the third color is actually our background color, not the first one or the second one. And can anybody explain why that is? Hello.
Now, what did you say?
You can see that, okay, I set a background color and it's intentional. This is the first one I set. This is the second one I set. This is the third one I set on the same element. And eventually, this one became the background color of the body. So why is that?
Because it's running it from top to bottom.
Okay, that's absolutely correct. So now I've been saying top to bottom, but and that will make us delve into a particular core feature of CSS, three core features of CSS actually, which I haven't really mentioned in terms of how you would mention them.
Please. You said from top to bottom. I actually want to say this, but this is not from top to bottom. This is from bottom to top, because that's the last color is picking.
Yeah, from top to bottom means it sees the first one at the top. And if it is from bottom to top, then the first one would have been the color, because that will be where it's going to end. You get? It is from top to bottom because the first one at the top is not the color it picked eventually. The second one was also skipped. And where it ended, and let me make this third color obvious, and I like that color by the way, and I don't want to lose it. So let me just set another one just to make emphasis. So you also see me do something like this, and I do red. And now what will be the color?
It'll be red.
Yeah, because it is from top to bottom. If it was from bottom to top, it would have been this gray color at the top, because it will see this one, then see this one, then override the first one, then see this one, override the second one, and see the fourth one, override this one. So instead, it is coming from the top, then it sees a new color, it chooses that, it sees another one, it sees another one, and uses it. So now we see our red background, which is going to be the proof that it actually runs from top to bottom. You get it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have this color now. Sorry. So these are just like the three basic ways you would use CSS. And now the question is, what is the difference between these three colors? This one is just an X code. What they call this kind of, what they call this is that this is an X code, because you're using hexadecimal numbers to actually generate the CSS, color value. Then here you are using the RGB, which is a combination of red, the three primary colors, green, and then blue. Those are the three primary colors. So you are using that to actually generate, your CSS color. Then here we have red, green, sorry, not green, that one's Yoruba green, red, green, blue, and then alpha. And what the alpha does is that it actually adds opacity to our text. And what opacity means is it is the degree of opaqueness of the color, that is how transparent or how opaque the color is what this alpha attribute. So here we have 70% opacity. And when I hover on top of that color, and we can't see the color because I've messed up the code by writing plain English words inside of the code. So let me just delete the words so that we can be able to see this. So when I hover on top of this, you actually see that here I see the color field where I actually get to pick the color. And you see that as I move the color around this field, you see the color of the RGBA value, actually the value of the RGBA, what's it called? Function actually changes, because the function really. So it changes as I move it across. So it's actually mixing RGBA as I'm moving across this, this plane. And then this second side is where you set this alpha attribute, because when I set it up, it becomes a fully opaque color, and when I set it down, it becomes a fully transparent color. And let me prove that to you. By the time I save it, you will just see white, because now it is transparent, fully transparent. But if I set it somewhere around here, it has 63% transparency. When I save it, you will see that color, but it's kind of slightly faint, not as dark as it should be. And I'm not really changing the color, I'm just changing the opacity. And when I save it again, see the color is going to be darker now, because the opacity is now 0, and that's, it changes from RGBA to RGB. So when I add the opacity, that is the transparency, the A alpha, aspect of the function comes alive, which is the transparency. So does that make sense to you guys yet?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So inside, hello? And why are we not on in our video this night? I'm on mine. Okay. So someone wanted to say something. Someone wanted to say something. Okay, nobody's saying anything, but somebody's eating. Okay, so okay, so we have this. So inside of our style guide, we have a color, which is the background color. We are trying to achieve this, remember. So that uses another kind of color combination, which is not as straightforward, because if you don't have a background in graphics design, you will might not really understand the idea of HSL, because HSL stands for, like I said before, hue, saturation, and lightness or brightness. So we have hue, saturation, and has anybody come across that word before?
I think you missed color.
Yeah, hue means color basically, and the saturation is now how saturated that color will be. And then the value of the color ranges from 0 to 255. So like pure red is 255, I believe, with 0 saturation and 0 lightness. So you can just kind of come to this W3 schools page and play around hue, saturation, and lightness, and see what you come up with. Then I'll just send you the link inside of the Meet chat, so you can play around it. I don't want to go over that, but just know that we'll be using HSL, because that's what's in our style guide. Style guide. Why am I saying style guide? Beg. Okay, so I will drop it on the YouTube as well, so in case you will need it. And W3 schools is not actually the best place to go when you need resources to actually learn about what you're doing, because most of the things it is here, they are not necessarily outdated, but they put into consideration some things that are no longer meant to be considered, more like browser compatibility and all those stuff, because nowadays browsers support almost everything available, and even if they don't support it, they always make provisions available. But on W3 schools, they always tell you that this browser does not support it, this browser. Meanwhile, in reality, that's not entirely true. Okay, so this is the color. This is the light gray color that we are looking at here. So we take this color here, and then that will be our background color eventually. So I'll set that at the bottom, and that's our background color. Oh, sorry. So that's the background color. So you see that it's actually the same color we have on this stuff. So they are brothers now, identical twins. Okay, so I said I was going to mention 3 core aspects of CSS, which is, the first one is going to be, and I'll write it down here. It's going to be number 1, the Cascade. And number 2 is, what's it called? Is specificity. if I spelled that correctly. This is not an English class. Then the third one is inheritance. And I'm very sure that I've actually talked about all of these things before. And by just looking at it, I'm sure that some of you can actually be able to kind of just tell me what they think this means. And you don't be surprised that you'll be correct. But I just have to, just, make it clearer and make it, like, what's it called? More like it's a testimony, like, and a witness, not for you, but again, not against you, but for you, that I have done this part. And then when you keep this in mind, there's just something that having to know certain concepts by specific keywords kind of make them stick better. So the first the most important things about CSS that you will have to keep in mind is that there's a cascading rule for CSS, and that cascading depends on the specificity rule. And then there's something such as inheritance, which also kind of buttresses on the specificity to an extent. And I've talked about this before, but intuitively, can you guys just tell me what you think these three things mean? Hello? There's nobody.
I'm lost.
Okay. Maybe I should keep the three things then. Is it fine like that? Then we'll talk about it later. Let's just focus on this stuff. But I was actually going to use to explain the whole ideology behind this. Yeah, but I think let's keep it for now. So let me delete all of these stuffs. Then we'll come back to that later. So I'll just keep it in the code so that we don't miss it. So we have the background color now. So the next thing we have to start worrying about is what? We know we need a box inside of the background color. And the assignment you did earlier can actually tell you, give you the hint as to everything you need to do about, do in terms of this. So the first thing we will need is, to also create a div inside of our body and give it a class of card. So that's a card. Then inside of the div, and maybe I should just bring this a little bit closer and then minimize it so that we can be seeing it while I'm writing. So inside of the div, we are going to have this image, and the image already exists. But what I like to do is I like to put the image itself inside of a div. So I'm going to say div.card image, and then the image we are going to use, I'm just going to put an HTML comment that says, then I'll create another div underneath that, and both of them will be children of the card div. And I will say this div is going to be called card content. And then the card content, as you can see, has a heading and also has a paragraph. So here we are going to inside of the card content, so we are going to have our let's say it doesn't matter whether it's H1 or H2, but it's not always good to give them lower class headings, anything more than H2. So let's just write the text inside of it. Improve your front. Triumph, don't battle with sleep, but wake up, or if possible stand up by building. Or are you already asleep? Maybe he's asleep.
I'm on my feet.
Okay, that's nice. Soldier of the cross. So okay, we have scan the QR code. Can anybody see that text? Scan the QR code to visit fundamental and your code. Sorry. Okay, so that's it. And I don't know why when developers try, they don't like to use full stop. So let me also remove the full stop. Okay, so now we'll have that text inside of our page, and you see that this is nothing like what we want to achieve, but God will help us. Okay, so first of all, what we are going to do is we are going to go back to our style guide, And then they said for mobile, the dimension of our window is going to be 1440, and then for 375 pixels, and for desktop is going to be 1440. So here what we want to do is to set, and copy this and set the width of our body. To okay, what I will do is I'm going to use this, I'm going to use this 375, because our window is kind of smaller for now, so I'll just use that 375 pixels. So by the time we make it open, so you can see that it's gradually coming together. Then what we do now is we are going to what's it called? Okay, so the next thing, where is the stuff we are trying to work on? So we change that to something, and I'll just put it a little bit below. So the next thing we'll do is we want to introduce our image to the code. So let's introduce our image. Let me just drag this out over a little bit. So our image is already in our project, and it's inside this image directory, and I will just use this to show you how directory and folder nesting works. So here our image is not just where we would normally have it when we are doing most of this beginning, because most times our image will be on the same level with our files, but now our image is inside a different folder entirely that is on the same level with the files we are working with. So how do we access that now? Can anybody help us?
Wait, sorry.
Huh?
You said the image is where?
Inside of this images folder, it is this image QR code. Then how do we access it from our HTML? Because any recommendation?
We will it's the name that we use to save the image that we're going to use in the source thing.
Okay, we'll just say image.
No, the name, the actual name.
And that's image QR code now, Abby?
Yes.
Okay, but that won't work. It won't work. You can see that we actually see that the image exists, and let's just give it the art attribute to be able to see it. So it won't show. Someone already said it won't show. And why is it not going to show? Because why won't it show?
Because it's a different folder.
Yeah.
You have to call the folder first before you call
Yeah. So how do we look up the folder?
Like pages slash.
Okay. Images slash, then we'll put the image. You can see that already suggesting the image to us. So when we save it now, we should have that image. So does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And let's say we have something like this. Let's create another folder and put our CSS inside that folder. So I'll just create another folder here, and I'll say CSS. And it's standard to do that. And I will just come here and copy, my CSS, drag it and put it inside that CSS folder. So I'm moving the CSS inside of the CSS folder now. And now if we save our file, our CSS should not be in existence anymore as far as our project is concerned. You can see that our background is gone. So how do we fix that now? It is because initially we are looking at index.css that is on the same level with our HTML, but now it is no longer on the same level with our HTML. It is now inside its own directory. So in the same way, we are also going to say what? CSS slash index.css, and that should give us access to our CSS folder back. CSS file rather. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So generally the font size is 15 pixels. Yeah. So the font size is 15 pixels. So we have this dark blue HSL color and then grayish blue HSL color. So we work with all of this, but let's set our font size for the paragraph. So we have a paragraph that we have already written, but it doesn't look so good yet. So let's just fix that for now. So we have a paragraph, and for our paragraph tag, the font size is what? 15 pixels. And I'll save it. So it should kind of just look smaller. Then we have this is the font we are using. So let's just keep that for now. We'll come to it later. So the font weight for the header tag is 700 on the big screen and 400 on the small screen. Yeah. So now let's just leave everything as is for now. So let's focus back on our image. So let's just leave the web page as it is. So first of all, what we want to do is like what we did before when we were looking at the 8 units assignment was to give the body a height of 100 VH. And when we do it, let me just get this out of the way so that I will just have to be looking at it from my end. We give it a display of flex so that it can go across the entire screen, but you can't see anything because our image is still very, very big. So now we are going to change the dimension of our image, and we give our image a width of 300 pixels. Sorry. Yeah. So that still looks very big. So let's make it 200 instead, because we're on a very small screen size. So 300 pixels, 200 pixels. So we are not going to be setting the height and width dynamically. So what we're going to do next is for our we have a class. So this is just the standard thing we are doing for everything. So now let's do class specific stuff for our element. So now we have a card container class, then we have a card image class. Yeah. So I want to, instead of selecting our image directly, I want to use the image card image class to be able to select the image. Now you can see that our image has no class name, but I want to be able to reference this image element using the card image class. And the way you do that, instead of doing just image, we will do dot card image space, and that will select the image inside of the card image. You can see that there's no difference now. And if I change this to 600, you see that it still works. So this is an example of where you use combined selectors. So everything still works fine. So here we are going to also change pick our h1 element, and our h1 element, we want to pick our h1 element is by doing this h2 element rather, card content. Then we just go down and then with the set dot card content, and then we will of course we'll pick our h2, and then for our h2 what we are going to do is we are going to say font size, and we'll do 22 pixels for now, and then font weight we are going to do 500, so to make it thicker. And so I think 22 is a little bit on like what we already have here, so let's just make it like this. And then then what we are going to do is for the card width, we are going to also go to the card class now, which is this card class. And what we want to do is we want to give it this background that it has, because the card actually has a bright background, not that kind of background. So to just kind of let us see our card. Yeah, and then that color is this HSL color 00 this thing, and I don't want to use that HSL for this particular one, so let's just go over the top. And the way I like to do it is I want to keep the style for this first element at the top of every other one. So as I'm writing CSS, I also want to style it from top to bottom, and that's a very good thing for you to do when you start writing on CSS. So write from top to bottom so that eventually you don't start looking for things. So if the card element comes before the card image, then let your CSS rule for the card element or class name come before the card image, and that will make sense in a bit. So we're going to say background color, and background color is white. And if we go the HSL route, we are also still going to do HSL. We're going to do 0.0, and then what is next? I think that's 100%. So use 0, saturation 0, and lightness 100%. What is that? Did I copy correctly? That should give us the white, but if it doesn't work, this is supposed to be white. It is actually okay. No idea why it didn't work. So for the card now, we are going to set a width of main and then a height. So the reason why we are doing width of main content and height of main content is so that the width and height of the element should be equal to the width and height of the, of everything inside of the card, so that it doesn't span across. And why I'm doing that is because remember I told you to beware of absolute values, because I could as well have said, okay, I want my height to be 700 pixels, and that will be fine if I just give it width rather to be maybe 400 pixels. But eventually, that can become problematic eventually, but it still works if I say this will be 600 pixels as well. And but it's kind of just straightforward for me to say I want my width to be the minimum content that is already inside of the box I'm trying to start. And then this warning will always come. It said it's not supported by Internet Explorer, so you don't have to worry about that. Then there are other ways to go about it, but let's just keep this for now. And it kind of just exposes you to more CSS property value pair, and that's the goal of the session. So let's say padding, and our padding will be about 15 pixels. Yeah. So we now have a padding around the distance, and I think the 15 pixels padding is actually too much. So let's just save this at 12 pixels. And then one other thing we need to do now is to do a border radius. And the border radius we want should be about, looking at what I see now, should be about 8 pixels. And if it's not enough, we just add more. Okay, 8 pixels is enough. It just looks like what I think. We are almost getting there, right? So yeah. So 8 pixels. Then yeah, for the card image, so you can see that the card image also has rounded edges. Where is that? Also has rounded edges. Say rounded. It's not rounded. It's rounded. So it has rounded edges. So the border radius is for the rounded edges like this. So this also has it. So we are going to also give our card image a border radius. I want to give it an equal border radius. And you don't have to have border, like physical border. Remember, border always exists. It's just a matter of what size you are giving to it. So let's also give the border radius 8 pixels. The border is just, remember, like I said, the fence of the element. So now our element is cut up in the middle at the top left corner of the page. So for us to be able to shift it to the center, we will not be doing all those margin, whatever. So we just use only the flexbox property on the body tag to be able to set our element to the middle of the page. So what we do now is to do justify content, and we say center. And justify content center, we set it to the center. What is that? Okay, I think at this point I just have to remove this width, since we are not in media query. So you can see that problem that you ran into earlier coming into play again because of this width setting.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So sorry. So let's just get rid of it. So when I save it, you see we're already in the center. So justify content center will set it to the center horizontally. Then the one that sets it to the center vertically is align items center. So that will set to the center vertically. So you can see now. Yeah. So here.
Come again. Which one is vertical and which one is horizontal?
Okay, justify content center. And I don't know why this thing doesn't work for me. It's supposed to be this. Okay, let me just do this. I want to be able to write comments. So let me just write comment beside it. So I'll say horizontal. Sorry, I'm actually writing comment as though I'm writing JavaScript. So this is going to center it. And this is just the basic way to explain it, because there's a way for you to change the flex direction. By default, your flex box places the elements using an horizontal alignment. You can change your flex direction to column when you have more than one element, and we'll look at that much later. But for now, let's just stick to this. So align items is vertical. Okay. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So now you see the design actually looks like it's far from reality, but we're already there, if I'm correct. Yeah. So here now you can see that the text are aligned to the center, and I'm just showing you to be able to look at these details on your own. So you can see that our text are aligned to the center, and here is it. So what we are going to do now is we are going to just put the text aligned, because both our paragraph and our heading is going to be aligned to the center. So instead of going to the paragraph and doing align center and going to the heading and doing align center, so what we can do is we can leverage on the inheritance property of CSS, which is this inheritance here. And how we can do that, instead of setting our text align center here like this, use text align center, which we send and make it, put our heading in the center. It's already in the center, and then on our paragraph to do text align center as well. And remember, no, set text align, yeah, center. So instead of doing the two of them, I can see this one is already in the center as well. So instead of doing the two of them like this, what we want to do is, instead of setting it like this, we just want them to inherit it from their parent. So how we can do that? We just go to the class of card and we'll do text align center. And you can know, you should know that your card is not a text element. It is just a div. It is a box. But whatever we put to that box, every text element that will exist inside of it, we just inherit whatever property that it can leverage on. But there are some kind of properties that cannot be inherited, like width, for instance. Imagine that width can be inherited. That would be a lot of trouble for us, right? Because everything will just be taking the width of their, that will make CSS like very, very difficult, right? So now we've used that, we just use the inheritance property, and let me just put it in front of it and say inheritance. The Bible says a righteous man will leave an inheritance for his children's children. So our div class here is leaving an inheritance, text align. So let's see. So now we have this. So we are almost there. The only difference we have now, can anybody spot the difference? Let me see your eyes. What's the difference?
I think the font,
And then
the font color of the paragraph,
yes, and then
the font size.
Video.
Is it the font size? Because actually reduce this. So maybe it's not the font size. The type of font is
the
actually
font
different.
type.
Yeah.
It's type of font.
Yeah. So
I guess it's the font family.
yeah, the font family is different. So now let's just focus on this our paragraph, and then what we'll do is we already have the color for that. That is this gray color, grayish blue. I think it's the grayish blue. Okay, the grayish blue, light gray. Okay, let's just try this. I don't know which one in particular. So I'm actually just doing most of these things from the scratch inside of this class, so that you guys can see my thought process. You understand? And then know how I arrive at the solutions I arrive at. So it's not like so then I think the dark blue now will be the color of our header tag. So for the header tag, which is, where's the header tag? Okay, this. I can see that we are actually using different selectors for the header and the paragraph, which is fine for now. Okay, so that's it. So we've fixed that. So hello, is anybody still watching on YouTube?
Yes, it is recording.
Okay, you can still see it. Please, can somebody verify?
Yes, I can still see. I can still see the last one, but I'm not seeing this current page now,
Which current page?
where there is the text editor and the live server.
Hold on, you should be seeing it. What are you seeing?
Okay, I can see it now. It's showing now.
That's what you should be seeing. I mean, throughout
Yes.
all the way, that's what you should be seeing all the way.
Yes, I can see it.
Please.
Yeah, I think they need to refresh or something.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's my
that's re-
network.
refresh. Just refresh.
Yeah.
please, so Okay, so I think the next thing we need to do in this case is to I think they made a font available for us. Yeah, inside of the code. So that is this font. So the way you can import the font is by using this import keyword, and I don't want those. We can actually look at the font name, and let me just use that to teach you the idea of Google fonts. Yeah. So talking about CDN now. So let's just go to Google fonts. Yeah. And let me increase this a little bit so that we can be on the same page. So I open Google font, and the name they call the font is outfit or what? Yeah. So it's the outfit font. So there are different kinds of fonts. So the one we are looking for is the outfit, which is this one. Yeah. So we get this font, and then the two fonts, font weight attribute that we're using is 400 and 700, which is what we are going to be getting here. So we have 400, which we select this, and it will come here when you select it. Then I want to select 700 as well, because if we don't select the font weight, that font, by the time we import it, we will not be able to use it in our CSS. So we can either use the link in our HTML tag or use import syntax inside of our CSS. But any which way, both of them will work. So let us try, the CSS, what's it called, import syntax first. And I pray we don't get slapped with an error. So, but if we get slapped with an error, there's always a solution. So now we have this, but if you look at the page, we shouldn't see that font in action just yet. We see that font in action by setting the font family attribute to, we copy this tree. And the reason why we are copying this tree is that sometimes your browser might find it difficult rendering some of these fonts. So it might just have to, if it doesn't see this first one, it will use the second one. So let me just, remove all of this and then, focus on the one we need to see. And then that is this one. So you can see that that is the font we have now. So does that make sense for you guys?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so that's how to import your font in your CSS. But to do it inside of our HTML, it's still the same way. You just have to copy this syntax, but this time around, you are not pasting it inside of your CSS like this. So I'll just comment out this. What you will do, and when I save it, you will see that the font will be gone. And let me just close it because we are done with Google Fonts. So once I save it, sorry. Okay, for some, I think by default, the browser actually has this font. That's why it could see it. So, but the reason why you ship your font along with your project is if the browser doesn't have the font, so that it can use the URL that you are providing to find it. I don't know if you get what I'm talking about. So in this case, we just provide. Does anybody understand what I said last?
No, sir.
There are some fonts that some browsers can, render like natively. It is a part of them. And sometimes some users also, for people that do graphic design, you know that you have to install some fonts locally on your computer for you to be able to use it in your project. And when you send that same project to someone else, the font might not display on that person's local environment. The person might need to go and download the font and install it on their computer before their computer can be able to use that font. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the reason why we actually link fonts as such is that we don't want to risk the fact that the browser will be able to handle them by itself. So we just ship them together with our code, so that should in case the user does not have those fonts locally and the browser can't render those fonts locally, the font should still work. So that's why you have something such as linking fonts, because not every font will just work out of the box without you having to link it specially. You get the point? So let me just.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense? So let me remove
Yeah.
it. And let me just leave those two font families, by the way. You can always use that in any of your projects for now. So these are all valid font families. And I believe you can use them with the same link actually. So we have this, and then our original project is this, and it almost looks exactly the same, other than the fact that I think we still need to tweak the width a little bit of the card.
Yes.
Yeah. So tweaking the width of the card now, I think what we might need to do is just set our own custom width, or maybe not set the width at all, because by now we shouldn't have to set the width. Our page should just be we probably have to set the width. So we have to set the width of let's say 450 pixels. And then there's another problem. No, this is terrible. So okay, see what I do when I'm doing things like this. I just want to do it directly from the browser, so that as I do it directly from the browser, I just kind of see what works. So we have this 300 pixels, so let's try. So 200. Then one other tool I need to work on, if you take a look very well, our padding at the top, spacing at the top is looking more than the space, smaller than the spacing at the bottom. And that's because by default, the header and the margin, the header and the paragraph have their own default margin that they come with by default. So we just have to remove that, and that's what's making our card a little bit longer. So I think let's just leave our main content and fix that. So let's leave our main content and use the universal selector to remove the margin and padding from every element that has margin and padding from every element that has that. So I think it looks much better now. So we might have to just specify our own, custom margin bottom for here, just to ensure that we have the exact same. Okay, now where is that behind this? Let me move this back. So here we have this. So I think we need more space beneath our image, yeah, and then we need space between our paragraph and okay, I think the spacing is actually standard. What was under the div before? So let's just take a look at it and then add. So under the card image, we have some space. So we have a margin bottom, and let's not add it to the card image. Let's add it to the div. So that's the card image div, which is this div here. Where is it? This div that contains the image. So we're adding a margin bottom of 15 pixels. Probably okay. I think 15 pixels is fine. Then let's add to our H1. Let's also add a margin bottom to our H1 of H2 rather of 10 pixels. Okay, so I think that's fine. Then under our paragraph, I think our paragraph also comes to that default margin bottom of so I think that's fine now. Yeah, okay. I think that's okay. Because by the time we expand this, it looks okay. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fine now. And I think we might need to reduce the font of our heading a little bit. So let's reduce this from, let's reduce it to 17. And I think my screen is actually bigger. My screen is, I think, about 27 inches. So maybe that's why a couple of things might actually look bigger for me than when you're on a regular screen. So I think it's fine now. Right? Or maybe
I think we should increase the size of the image a little so that the font below, the one, the bluish gray, I really don't know the color, but the font below is taking just 3 lines, but over here it's taking 4. So
okay, I think what we might need to do is just we can manipulate our font size here to achieve that. We don't necessarily need to increase the image. You get it?
okay, awesome.
So I'm just showing you the the thought process of achieving this kind of thing. So when I give you a project, you don't expect that everything will just as you think it will just flow. And I think we just need to tweak our border radius a little bit too. The border actually looks more rounded than what we've added. So let's say, man, yeah, I think this is better. Yeah, it's better than what was there before. So this is it, guys. Hello?
Very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And then I think there's an extra margin here as well. So I don't have to be looking at all those details, but you guys should understand the thought process now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So is there any question? Is there anything unclear also?
Yes.
Eh?
Okay. Yes, I want to ask a question.
Okay.
So from your HTML code, if I understand correctly, you just use the font size to manipulate the text that's inside the card. You didn't use like a break or anything. So you just use like one paragraph, like for the paragraph.
Yeah.
You typed everything inside one paragraph and then use the font size to manipulate it to fit into 3 lines.
Yeah.
So you didn't need to like add, like after saying scan the QR code to visit, you didn't need to add break to
No.
break it, right? Okay, so that's all. Okay.
Yeah, whatever works for you, actually, but the line break idea is not something you should do. That's what people used to depend on a lot before CSS became so powerful. You don't have to. There are more than enough stuffs in CSS to be able to help you achieve whatever you want to achieve visually. You don't have to use all those HR. Or if I need an horizontal rule at the bottom, I can even use a div to achieve that. You get, and there are so many ways to achieve it. So you will hardly see things like HR or BR, except for when I maybe just being lazy. I don't want to type CSS. I'll just come and put HR. Just put it in the code and let everybody rest. That kind of thing. So, but you hardly see those kind of things in code these days. Like people just. So that's fine. So this makes sense, but
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
so now you've learned a couple of things like how to import fonts, and then the font came from a CDN. Basically, we'll talk more about CDN, but I don't want to start throwing in most of those things. But it is important that so far I know that you guys are following. Sure, we are following.
Yes, I was wondering if for me you could just go over the font again.
Go over what?
The font, importing the font again.
Okay, to import the font, let me make this window bigger so that So to make the font bigger, here's what I did. I went to googlefonts.com, obviously, right?
Yes.
Or do I need to go to Google Fonts again? If you think I need, okay, let me just go back there. So first of all, now as a developer, you know the fonts you need, and Google Font actually has a lot of fonts that you can use to do your work. And let me make this big so that you guys can see it in big screen, so it looks nice. Yeah. So as a developer, you need the font. Okay, let's say the font you are looking for is Ray, for instance. So you can just type Ray, or just go to Google Fonts. No need to complicate it. Google Fonts. Yeah. So when you go to Google Fonts as such, you see fonts.google.com. There's a lot of .google.com stuff. So this is fonts.google.com, and then when you open fonts.google.com, you go to search fonts, and by our from our style sheet here that they gave to us, no, not style sheet, style guide, they told us that the font is outfit. That's the name of the font. I don't know what kind of outfit that is. The font is outfit, and you just type outfit and press enter. So it brings you don't even need to press enter, it just queries it automatically for you. Then when you click on outfit, it gives you what the outfit fonts look like, and it gives you different kind of font weights. And font weight is just like how bold will your text be. And if you don't import different levels of boldness for your text, for instance, I have font with 500. I already added, I added 400. Okay, I thought I added 500. Okay, I added 400. I didn't add 500. So if I remove 400, and then I add 500, and I also added 700. So it automatically generates. And watch this place, as I add these stuff, this link, this particular link updates. So as I keep adding all these stuff, it keeps updating the parameters for that link to be able to, you know, include those kind of, you know, the dynamics of that font that, you know, contains all of those things I'm adding, like the different font weight categories. So, and it tells me that, okay, all of these things now in my code, the thin 100 font with the extra light 200, the, you know, light 300, 400, 500, blah blah blah, and all of those stuff. Then there are two ways to import it. This is the link it generates for me. It says what? Use on web to embed a font, copy the code into the head of your HTML tag. If I use this, you don't copy this into your HTML tag, you copy this one inside of your CSS, but they still insist that you should copy it in the head of your HTML tag because there's this style tag there. But we are not using that style tag. We just want to copy the entire CSS, you know, rule, and then paste it, go to our Visual Studio Code, and then go to our Visual Studio Code, and we pasted that here. You can see that that's the import syntax, which is here, import. Then I said, okay, if you don't want to do it with CSS, and when you do this with CSS, you now want to copy the rule that is font family, outfit, sans serif, and which is this font here. We also have Moolish and this thing, which I think this link can also make available for you. But our focus is the outfit because that's what they gave us in the style guide. Then without using this import syntax inside of a CSS file, you can also use this link tag inside of HTML tag, which gives you the access to the very same resource. Then you can copy this, which is what we use eventually. Then we went back to our, you know, HTML, and we pasted the font link here. I can see the API, the link is here, http fonts or Google API blah blah blah.com, and it gave us the name of that font, you know, everything, you know, font family. It says font family is what? Outfit. Then we also have this family available, supermarket, blah 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 blah. Then all of those stuff, you know, available. So, and let me just try the comment quickly to let you know that, okay, this is where we import. Okay. Yes. So that's just it. And let me close it. I think we are pretty much done with this now. So I'll just close this out. This is our stuff. So this is it. Okay, so any question, guys?
So please, the last, okay, is there a way you can just drop the code on GitHub immediately?
Okay.
Because the last code, it was not dropped, so I think maybe probably you said it was lost.
No, the code.
So if you can get the full
let me
contents of the CSS and the HTML on GitHub.
Okay, I think I'll do that. No problem. So it's been a you guys learned a lot from this, I believe. I had it in mind to just add a bonus content to this, but I guess you guys must be tired at the moment, so we can just say good night at this point. I was going to add a navigation bar first at the top. So that's fine. Should we go ahead to add it or just break it from here? Be sincere. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Eh? Hello? I can't hear what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying anything.
Okay, are you saying we should add the nav bar or should just leave it for here? Okay, let's just leave it to avoid excessive complexity. So now let's go back to the, you know, the three things I said we're going to look at initially, which is cascade, and the cascade, specificity, and then inheritance. So what these three things mean, for instance, the way CSS knows which rule to apply to an HTML element is using the cascade, because CSS, as you know, is the cascading style sheet. So with the cascade, when you have several rule sets targeting the same element, it is with the cascade CSS knows which rule to use. And the way CSS kind of reaches the conclusion of which rule to use to style a particular element is specificity. Yeah, with specificity, CSS will now conclude, okay, remember the law of CSS selectors that I stated in last class. What was the law again? Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
And
sir, I didn't hear that.
I said the
Can you
law
provide?
of CSS selector that is stated in the
in
laptop.
in summary, the more specific it is, the more it's able to apply. That's just all.
Yeah, like the more specific, you know, a CSS selector is to an HTML element, the more authority, yeah,
Yeah.
that selector has over that HTML element. So the Cascade uses specificity to determine which rule to apply. And when you look at our code here, we haven't really done so much. Like, we just did a couple of things, and we got to learn about things like HSL and so on. So we have a card element, and we have, the card element is actually a div. So under this HTML, if I say div and I give a background color of red, and you see that, can you notice something now? That this Alice Brown, let me just give a more obvious color so that you can see what's going on. You can see that which CSS core feature is being, coming to play here. I just gave div a background color, and if you look at our HTML very well, almost everything is inside a div. So I specified a background color to div, and all of a sudden every div wants to have a background color. You guys get that? And I didn't necessarily have to say, okay, this particular div or this h2 should have a background color, but automatically, because I specified that property on this div element, and nothing else overrides this background color property that I've set here. You get, the Cascade just chooses this as the preferred background color for all divs on the page. So here we now see that our content, HTML, sorry, the card content, which I'm going to now come here to say card and specify a background color of transparent. And when I save it, you see that that color goes away. But that color is still on our image tag. If you can take it, if you can see very well, like if you can see my screen very well, you can see that that color is still on our image. Yes.
So,
But hello? Okay, are you saying
yes.
Okay. So you can see that our card content is more specific to this particular div. And as a result, the background color we set here overrides the background color that we set to a more generic selector. So the Cascade actually prefers this selector over the other one. And that's very important for you to understand about how CSS works. You guys get it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now I'm going to do something else. And the other thing I'm going to do is, in my body tag, I'm going to give a color of brown. And I'll say that's a color. So the selector, okay, now I've set a color of brown here, and you see it has no effect on our page whatsoever. You can see it's very clear that it doesn't affect us. Why doesn't it affect us? And this is what the Cascade actually does. This is what the Cascade does for you. It kind of just manages which rule will be applied at every point in time. You get it? And the reason why this color brown doesn't get applied is because, remember that on our H2, we have already set a color property. So that color property we've set here forbids that brown. And if I comment out this, it is going to inherit that brown. You can see that it inherits it now. So that inheritance in place. So the Cascade actually watches these two features of CSS to know which rule to apply. Because you can have several various rules, several various rules pathology. You can have various rules or several rules that target this very same element. And you have to understand how the CSS Cascade works for you to be able to, know when you are kind of messing up your styling. Because sometimes as your project becomes big, you will have like 10, 20, 30, selectors targeting the same element in one way or the other. It can be the color that you already set on one with one selector. Now you will now think that, okay, this is not good. You now added a new class name and you are now setting another set of style and so on. So with the Cascade knows how to manage these things. So you as a CSS, developer or somebody who writes CSS, and I don't think the CSS developer is a thing. Someone who writes CSS, you have to be able to know how the cascading, idea in CSS works for you to be able to know and set, your rule set in such a way that you don't set rules that will now eventually begin to contradict each other, and eventually your project scatters and you don't even know where to go. You don't know how to start, so that you don't have like your wheat doesn't become a macaroni like Laura's Laura's what's it called? Her, her poster card. The thing looks like spaghetti at first. Yeah. So when you understand the cascade, you kind of get how those things are wired. So that's it. So I'm going to give this a catch image a background of transparent as well. And when I do that, you see that that's ugly color beneath it just goes in it. So do you have any question regarding the cascade specificity and inheritance? There's just one other one, but I won't talk about that tonight. We'll be using that to override a lot of things. And it's actually called important, but we are not going to talk about it tonight. So important actually breaks down the cascade and forces, even if the selector has the lowest precedence, when you use the important keyword, it breaks down the cascade and, enforces your intention on that element. And you should use that with so much caution, because it can be criminal sometimes when you use it without caution. So that's that about that. So tonight, guys, I think we've had an interesting project to work on, and I think it looks nice. Maybe it doesn't look nice to you, but it looks nice to me. So that's pretty much it, guys. So can we now begin to call it an evening? Does it call it a night or call it a day? So we've achieved what we set out to achieve. So I think you guys can now go to sleep. So is there any question at this point, or we just say goodbye from me? No question, but everything is clear.
Yes, sir.
I'm about to go and fortify the project, the assignment. Okay. I think you have enough for me to fortify the project with now. And if you haven't finished that project by 12 p.m. tomorrow, I'll just remove it. That's like no jokes to be removed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so important is criminal. Yeah. Or it's criminal to use important in certain yeah.
But all these people are just, as in, I know that they understand, though, who are just like, yes, there's no question. And
I can't hear you very well, sir. I think at this point I can even stop the streaming. Abby?
So all the people who are just
Let me stop the stream.
hello.
Yeah, I'm
So all the
listening to
people
you,
who are saying they understand. All the people, some people are like seem to be far ahead of the others.
sir. I'm with you, sir.
As in, I'm saying some people seem to be far ahead of the others.